Welcome back, my fellow Den Souls, to another deep dive into the fog. For those of you wandering in for the first time, welcome to the Den, where we embrace the darkness and break down all things Dead by Daylight. Today we're talking about the PTB 8.6.0 update. Just in case you missed it, it's bringing out some big quality of life changes, survivor bloodpoint buffs, killer tweaks, and more. If you want to stay up to date with all things DBD, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't already done so, come hang out with us live on Twitch. Now, let's step into the fog and break down what's new. We're kicking things off with some long-awaited improvements to scratch marks. The devs have fine-tuned the way they spawn, making them more consistent on the ground rather than floating in weird places. This should help killers track survivors better and make movement feel more predictable. No more scratch marks randomly appearing on walls where they shouldn't be. Alright, now, have you ever been in a match where you're the last survivor and your teammates are all bots? Or maybe the game is just dragging on with no gens completed in 10 minutes. Well, the new surrender option lets you tap out under specific conditions while keeping your BP, your XP, your emblem progress, and challenge completions. Killers can surrender if all remaining survivors are bots or if no gens have been completed in 10 minutes. Survivors can surrender if all other remaining survivors are bots or if everyone is in the dying state. Be warned though, you'll still lose your items and add-ons, and it won't count as a completed trial. Now at my Den Souls, we're moving on to some long-awaited map changes. The Forsaken Boneyard and Dead Sands. The Forsaken Boneyard realm has received some serious changes. The Area of Crows main building got a rework, with window placements changed and new exterior drop points added. The overall tile layout has been adjusted to improve movement and reduce annoying small collisions. Plus, a new map, the Dead Sands. It joins the rotation now, expanding the lore and nerfing the Forsaken Boneyard realm offering. Oh, and everybody remember those frustrating large branches that we kept colliding with between tiles? They're gone. Absolutely deleted from the maps. You'll love to see it. Survivors, rejoice! Bloodpoint gains have been massively increased across multiple actions. Safe hook rescues, healing, repairing, opening gates, you name it, it's getting a boost. Totem cleansing got a huge bump too, making it more rewarding to take out hex perks. And even escaping as the obsession is now more valuable. These changes should make BP farming feel a lot better for survivors. And now we're going to move on to the one thing that everybody hates. Mending Simulator. I mean, Deep Wound Adjustment. Sorry about that. Deep Wound just got a tweak. Self-mending is now only going to take you 10 seconds instead of 12. And healing another survivor, Deep Wound takes 6 seconds instead of 8. This makes mending a little faster across the board, reducing downtimes. And a slightly less annoyance. Alright, my killer mains. Now we're going to go into killer updates for Legion, Xenomorph, and Chucky. We don't put a good guy down around here. No, no, no. Now, a few killers are getting some significant balance adjustments that will shake up their gameplay. The Legion now moves faster during Feral Frenzy, reducing the time needed to close the gap on survivors. Their fatigue cooldown after a Feral Frenzy ends has been shortened as well, making them more immediately threatening after a chain hit. This benefits aggressive Legion players who thrive on constant pressure, but may make Legion feel overwhelming in certain scenarios. So let's hear it for Mending Simulator 2.0. And now we are moving on to the Xenomorph, the Xeno Kitty. Their tail attack has been slightly nerfed, reducing its overall effectiveness in quickly downing survivors, especially when used repeatedly in tight loops. This adjustment forces Xenomorph players to be more strategic with their tail strikes rather than relying on them for consistent downs. However, to compensate, its tunneling speed has been improved, making it easier to maneuver through tight spaces and stay on a survivor's trail without excessive slowdown. No, I don't mean you get pulled off a hook and then they come after your ass immediately. I'm talking about when they go into the deep dark hole. That's the tunneling we're talking about. Additionally, Killer Instinct now provides better tracking by increasing the duration of aura reveals, reinforcing Xenomorph's ability to control the map and making it significantly harder for survivors to escape detection after being spotted. These changes shift Xenomorph's playstyle towards a more balanced approach where positioning and movement play a larger role in securing downs rather than raw attack speed. So if you pair that with the Predator perk, you're never losing your prey. And of course, who can forget a good guy? You can't keep a good guy down after all. For Chucky, he's been given a significant speed boost in Hidey Ho mode, with a reduced cooldown allowing him to use his stealthy approach more frequently. His movement buildup is now smoother, letting him chain his abilities more efficiently. This means skilled Chucky players will be able to engage in a hit-and-run tactic even more effectively, making him a nightmare to shake off in a chase. And that also goes double for Tiffany because you can't keep a good girl down either. The next topic of choice is going to be the terror radius changes. Now, we can't exactly show this in matches from Survivor's side because during this PTB, most games are against the ghoul. In fact, I don't think I've seen anything but the ghoul in the PTB. However, some killers' terror radii are being tweaked. Hillbilly and Blight now have a 40-meter terror radius, as you can see in the screenshot here, while Pig, Ghostface, and Skull Merchant are dropping down to 24 meters, as you can see here. This should impact how they pressure survivors and interact with perks that rely on terror radius. And now we're going to move on to perk changes. We have killers and survivors being tweaked here with this PTB. Several perks are getting buffed or reworked, shaking up both the killer and survivor gameplay. For killers, let's start ourselves off with Alien Instinct. It now reveals auras for a longer duration, making it a stronger information perk. Next, we have Nemesis, which applies the Oblivious status effect for an extended period, increasing its synergy with perks that rely on survivor confusion. Hysteria here now activates more reliably after an injured survivor is put into the dying state, improving its consistency in multi-down situations. And now we're going to move on to Knockout, one of the biggest perk reworks in this update, which has completely undergone a total transformation from its previous form. Knockout was originally all about stealth and slugging, preventing survivors from seeing the aura of their downed teammates unless they were within 32, 24, or 16 meters. This made it a go-to perk for killers who wanted to slow down survivor coordination and force them to search blindly for their fallen allies. Now that is all gone. Instead, Knockout has been reworked into an anti-looping tool. When a survivor drops a pallet, if they move away from that pallet within 6 meters in a total of 6 seconds, they become hindered, suffering a 5% movement speed penalty for up to 5 seconds. This change completely shifts the perk's focus rather than benefiting killers who down and leave survivors slugged. It now directly punishes survivors who try to pre-drop pallets and run. With this rework, Knockout becomes a strong chase perk for killers who struggle with pallets, particularly slower or basic attack reliant killers. It forces survivors to be more mindful of when and where they drop pallets, making it easier for killers to capitalize on a chase. However, if you relied on the old Knockout for slugging and map-wide pressure, you'll need to rethink your strategy, as this version no longer interferes with aura reading or survivor recovery. Now, let's move on to the survivor side, shall we? Quick and Quiet's cooldown has been reduced from 20 seconds to 12 seconds, allowing for more frequent stealth plays. Then we have Deception. Now it only triggers a fake locker interaction, but also hides the survivor's aura for 5 seconds, adding a new layer of mind game potential. Dance With Me scratch mark suppression now lasts for 5 seconds instead of 3, making it significantly harder for killers to track movement after a rushed action. Moving on to Red Herring. It also sees a rather major buff. Its cooldown has been reduced from 40 seconds to 30 seconds, and the false generator notification now lasts 6 seconds instead of 4, making it a stronger distraction tool. With these updates, we can expect these perks to see a lot more playtime in matches. And now, we're going to move on to loadout and bot improvements. For quality of life changes, equipped items now show how many charges you have left, so you don't have to go into a match with an empty medkit by accident. And unfortunately, I don't actually have any gameplay footage of this, so I do apologize, everyone. I have a very bad habit of actually not carrying items from the Blood Web into the matches. I tend to go in empty-handed, and if I'm carrying anything, it's usually something I find in the match. So, sorry about that. Beyond that, those of you who play against or with bots, they're now better at dodging ranged attacks, less likely to loot chests randomly, thank God, and they won't keep hopping in and out of lockers like they're stuck in an infinite loop. Though I still question as to whether or not they get stuck in corners or not. It didn't mention that in the PTB. Patch notes. I guess we'll see. Alright, we've come to the final section of the PTB patch updates. And I say this wholeheartedly, I am not going to break down every last little tidbit of this because there are a lot of bug fixes, which, fantastic. But you've got audio, bots, character fixes, environmental fixes, you've got perks, platform fixes, UI, and miscellaneous. So let's just summarize this, and I'll give you the highlights. So, bug fixes are always a highlight, and this patch addresses a ton. From fixing Leon's voice issue, so no more Carlos lines coming out of Leon's mouth. So they're cleaning up character animations and movement stutters. There are plenty of quality of life improvements. AI navigation has also been tweaked, particularly in Haddonfield, so bots don't get stuck as often in those little small squares. And that wraps up the biggest changes in PTB 8.6.0. If you've made it this far, you're a real one, and I appreciate you. Drop a like if you've enjoyed the breakdown. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more DBD content. And join us over on Twitch, where we test these updates live in the fog. Also, hop into the Discord to chat builds, matches, and the latest games with the Den Souls community. All the game news. Until next time, stay sharp in the fog, and I'll see you in the next one.